Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Doing a series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance the Nintendo 64 core, because a couple months ago the N64 Brew Game Jam demos came out, and they're all on one cartridge or file, which is absolutely amazing for testing, and we figured we'd take a look at them on the N64 core, because a lot of these games are comprised with libdragon executables, which is a new SDK for Nintendo 64 versus libultra, which is what was used back in the day for most developers. Plus, it's just always fun to check out some wild demos like this, Sauna Rush. Not sure what is going on in this game, but it is absolutely hilarious. As a technical demo, it's a really good example of how you can use pre-rendered backgrounds, because that sauna looks absolutely spectacular. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I love Game Jam demos like this. Last year I talked about the Saturn Game Jam, so this year it's Nintendo 64. Just seeing what you can do with old hardware with modern development tools. And I do love that the swimmers basically walk directly into the water they are falling in. Obviously this is just comprised of a bunch of different demos, ranging from kind of technical demo exploits to actual like partial games. So you're going to have different games and different results depending on what you play as to whether or not you're into them or not. And that isn't judgment on any of the individual games in the Game Jam demo. They're all impressive. Some just hit differently than others for different players. But I love this here. It kind of feels a little bit like one of those old sports games on PlayStation 1 or Nintendo 64, like Nagano Winter Olympics or any of the Konami games like that. And you'll see here you're basically just rushing through this water in a swimming button mashing contest, have to hit the right button at the right time to progress, and it is a ton of fun. And I would love to see this one develop to have a bunch of different sports all based around saunas. It's just one of those things. It's so wild, it's so weird, you can't help but love it, and it's the first game I wanted to show you from the demo because it is that strange. Now moving over to Coin Rush, I would say, at least for me personally, this is probably the most impressive demo, both visually and gameplay wise, that I've seen on the N64 Brew demo compilation so far. I absolutely love the art style. Kind of feels like a mix of Paper Mario with some Yoshi games. Those bushes right there look like they're definitely from Paper Mario or Yoshi's Island, and obviously you have 4 players simultaneously playing at once as the screen scrolls. Some of the models here and some of the textures just feel like stuff that would be impossible on Nintendo 64 back in the day, and that is why these game jams are so much fun, because since the Nintendo 64 left retail shelves, there's been decades of learned developments on it. You have new SDKs, you have a bunch of people working on it, finding out that the hardware was more capable than even Nintendo and other developers like Rare realized back in the day. So these things aren't just fun games to play, well, that is a bonus. They are technical showcases of what else the Nintendo 64 could handle. And the nice thing is, from a MiSTer FPGA testing perspective, the core is compatible with the libdragon games, and that is the thing. Sometimes different demos will run on emulation but not on real hardware, because they'll use tricks in emulation that real hardware or MiSTer FPGA wouldn't work with. If we take a look at this can here, it's not just there because it's fun to see a giant can and see the logos of some of the developers. You can see just how complex that model is and how good the textures are, and even that pseudo reflection. Honestly, if you ask me, that looks close to the same quality of an object you would see in something like Pikmin on GameCube. Obviously the Nintendo 64 is not going to be able to handle GameCube games, but it can handle some effects that make you think that it is punching way above its weight, but the reality is it's punching exactly what its weight is. People have just learned how to get more out of the hardware, and this kind of transparency disappearing effect right here, as some of the level just kind of disappears in real time, another fun trick, and it just absolutely looks so good on MiSTer FPGA. And again, these Game Jam games, not every single one of them will become a full game, maybe none of them will, but Coin Rush here, I would love to see this become an actual like hour or 2 hour game. It's got great multiplayer potential, it's a ton of fun, it's absolutely gorgeous to look at, and as a technical showcase it just works, and as a showcase of what MiSTer FPGA can handle on the libdragon side of things, 10 out of 10 all day long and twice on Sunday. But go ahead and listen to the music on this one as well, because I think that's also great. We'll do 45 seconds but come back because I got more fun demos to show you. Awesome soundtrack, awesome sound effects, and just a great game that I'd love to see become a full release. Now moving over to a game that I'm 100% biased towards because I love Kaiju and Godzilla. This is Destroy. It's basically a 3D isometric version of Rampage where you take your dinosaur and destroy as many buildings as possible to try to outcompete your opponents. I would say the frame rate on this one's a little bit slow and the controls could definitely use a little bit of an improvement, but that is not a knock against the developer. These are all just fun projects that are just kind of proof of concept. So this is one that I would love to see finish, just like Rush. I want to be able to play this game with 3 friends on game nights, just kind of yelling, drinking beers, and pretending you are Godzilla for just a moment, because that is a fun power fantasy for sure. Now moving over to another one I love, both from the gameplay concept as well as the overall artwork. This is Hydra Harmonics. You have to move up and down and have the right Hydra head eat the right color note so that you get those bonus points. You're going to see here it is color coded. It's such a simple game, but I love the overall 2D aspect because honestly there were so few 2D games on Nintendo 64 back in the day. It was almost all 3D. I love the 2D look of Nintendo 64. Think something like Mischief Makers, except think a music rhythm game as far as the artwork is concerned. This was a fun one. It's definitely going to challenge you, definitely going to give you something to see and do, and it is another fun demo just to kind of take a look at, and that's really what the fun of this is, just seeing what developers are working on today. And it's just a fun bonus to be able to test it on the MiSTer FPGA core because it's always fun to know what else is going to work out there. And if you have any other fun demos you want me to test, leave me a comment down below and maybe I'll check them out in the future because I do still have more to talk about on the Nintendo 64 front. Now moving over to Mallard, I love this game because it just is hilarious and makes me think of ducks, and ducks are always funny when you see them. Also pretty tasty bird as well if you get some Chinese barbecue involving them. But all duck eating jokes aside, it's one of those games, it's so simple, it's so fun, it's so colorful and cheery. You can't help but have fun, and that's the good thing about these Game Jam demos. The concept has to hit immediately because they aren't long. It's not going to make you take 30 minutes to understand the gameplay mechanics before you can start having fun with it. You're just going to jump right in and start playing the game. These little ducks with their animated legs beating what look like marshmallow snowmen in the playfield. You don't exactly know why you're doing something, you just know that it is a ton of fun. Pick your duck, beat the hell out of some marshmallows like they owe you money, and just kind of rinse and repeat. And I do like that a lot of these Game Jam demos are multiplayer games as well, from the Sonic game to Coin Rush to Destroy to Mallard here. This is all a 4-player experience, and I'm not sure if that was required of the Game Jam or not, but you do see a lot of 4-player games included, and trust me, Mallard might be simple, but it's a ton of fun, and I definitely recommend you check it out on this compilation, which I will leave a link to in the description below. Now let's move over to Snacks. Not Snakes, but Snacks. This one is definitely very simple. It kind of feels like an Atari Jaguar aesthetic, but I love the pastels, I love the colorways, I love the snakes just kind of running around in these tubes here. It just looks like such a basic example of art, but it reminds me a lot of the Katamari Damacy series or even games like Wadam. I love that art style, and this one also has a very fun soundtrack as well, so go ahead and listen for 35 seconds, but don't go anywhere because I still have some games to show you, and I'll tell you which one's my favorite of the overall Game Jam. Just a fun, charming, goofy game in the best ways possible. Now moving over to Space Waves, which is basically a first-person shooter in space. Definitely reminds me a lot, at least visually, of something that you would see in the Turok games in space. That's not to say that this is involving Turok whatsoever, just kind of the vibe I get. And you will see that this is using some interlacing as well. As those guns fire back, you will see the interlacing lines in there because you can use the high-resolution mode on Nintendo 64, and this seems to be one of the games from the actual Game Jam that's using it, or at least that's how it appears to my eye. This is another one that would be fun to see finished because it has a good vibe and sense of place. I mean, honestly, it's got bot 2, 3, and 4, so I'm not sure how this would work as a multiplayer game unless you had 4-player split screen like you'd see in something like GoldenEye back in the day. But it's fun, it's a great look, it's running well, and it does have a good gameplay hook, and that's what I'm really looking for in the demos here. Something I would want to play if it is a full experience. And just so you know, if I didn't feature a demo in this video, it's not because I didn't love it. Every single demo maker deserves our love and respect as far as bringing more life to the Nintendo 64. I just tried to pick some of the demos that both spoke to me and had an art style that was contrasting between each demo, a mix of 3D and a mix of 2D, a mix of weird and a mix of pretty straightforward. But if you have to ask me what my favorite demo on this compilation is, I'm going to say that we're done with the video and I'm going to say bye-bye and then you'll find out. So bye-bye.